Hi, Twin Flame Collective. Welcome to Project Fev, Tarot and More. I'm Sharon. I'm an intuitive empath, potentially more. It's coming to my attention that there might be more there. So as I develop these skills and start to step out into them, I'm starting to realize that there's definitely more to all of this and everything that's coming. You guys will have to just trust that I'm taking leaps of faith and moving forward with visions and some, Akashic downloads that I'm getting, and kind of moving forward with all of this type of crazy stuff from the divine. So, welcome to the Twin Flame reading, reflective of the energy for the rest of April. I'm not going to apologize for this being late because it's not late, it's right on time. I do feel like since the last video that I posted, I've had to allow spaciousness in the twin flame paradigm to kind of play out. And April 1st, the divine doesn't care that the new calendar month started April 1st for all of us on this planet, but the movement of energy and flow through the twin flame paradigm has released. It's shifted. Okay. So what once seemed like hanging by a thread has now become full circle cyclic transformation. And this morning, the energy of that was really at, I would call it a turning point. Let's see what the divine says about it. So this really had to do with, so the energy this morning was kind of like a giving up, or, something triggered the active energy, okay, and switched the duality, the polarity. Okay, so let's go back and kind of recap a little bit. I'm moving away from using divine masculine, divine feminine, because we all have masculine and feminine energy in us. So how are you supposed to tell if you're the divine masculine or the divine feminine in the story? Okay. So I'm really moving into divine counterpart, twin, and whoever's in the active energy and whoever's in the B energy. Because in duality, when you have polarity in relationship, there's going to be someone in the active energy and someone in the B energy. Someone that wants to move forward and keep driving the forward momentum, and someone that just wants to be. And that might flip roles throughout the relationship, depending on what type of energy is moving into the space. Okay. So think of it holistically. Look at the bigger picture of things. And I know that in a lot of readings collectively that I've pulled the cards for this month in the love readings, in relationship, those kinds of cards have come up from the Moonology deck. Look at the bigger picture. What's really going on in the divine? What's going on in the universe? What planets are influencing all of that? And when we talk about how we're growing, how we're changing, how we're transforming, it's really not April, May, June, July, August. It really it doesn't matter. Like, the dates don't matter. It's about when the energy shifts and when we're expecting those energies to change and move, and how we can participate in moving with those energies and synergistic with each other, manifesting the reality of what it is that we desire and what our wish fulfillment wants to become. Okay. So in relativity to all of that considered, if you have aligned yourself with your twin in the spiritual realms, in the multidimensional realms, and you're trying to, at this point, manifest a physical union, I do feel that there was a shift. Okay, so that shift is taking place, and that spiritual alignment has now become alignment in the 3D. All, if not most, of the intense energies of pain that have been collected in what I call the reservoir or the pain body, have now been moved through and to some degree healed. That does not mean the triggers for those do not exist. Okay, so understand that interacting with your twin at this point may still trigger that. Okay, so I think what is vital to understand about those trigger points is functioning from a place of vulnerability with each other. Now that we're open to each other and we're starting, and that's the shift that I felt is that open, flowing, moving energy between the twins has picked up in speed, picked up in intention, and I feel like for a lot of us, we're kind of on the same page now, and we're functioning from the same point of view. Okay, so whatever stagnation or hesitancy or pulling back, or I'm not sure because I don't want to be hurt, or any avoidance, resistance, passive aggressive behaviors, any projection of those onto our partner, all of those have kind of released. Okay, and I think some of us have learned some coping mechanisms for triggers. Is this something I should deal with on my own versus is this something I should communicate to my twin? Do I open up about it and release it? Okay, so this morning I had an instance where it was like, okay, so do I say this or do I just keep it to myself and move on and pretend like it doesn't exist? Well, if I'm going to honor myself in my truest, most authentic form, in my truest, most authentic what's the word? Divinity, in my true honoring of myself, then I have to release it because that's the freedom that comes with expressing your true self. So before I just release whatever this is, let me find out what my true self says about it. So I experienced some disappointment this morning, and I worked through different layers of it and realized that I still had an emotional attachment to the outcome. And it was easy to work through and process this emotional attachment to the outcome. And I decided that once the intensity of the emotion was dissipated and I had worked through the ego aspect of it, or my identification aspect of it, I want to call it the misidentification, because you have your self-identity and you have your misidentity, your misunderstood identity. Okay, that would be the facade or the preconditioning or the definitions that you have of value system that isn't really your value system. It's not the truest value system to self that exists. I would call that the misidentification, your mis-ID. You have your ID, your true self, and then you have your mis-ID, your external self that's developed over time as a result of many different experiences, events, and things like that. And I do feel like I got an Akashic download for that too, and I'm moving towards making a video specifically for that. The information is coming, but there's so much to process through and write down and organize. And, I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced getting downloads, but it's not very organized in a precise way, which is why I like to use the tarot when it comes to my intuition, because right now, filtering the message specifically and accurately is something that I'm learning how to do. And the cards help to do that. They really just create the storyline, create the baseline, create the message line, and it becomes easier to deliver the message effectively and efficiently and accurately, that I can trust the accuracy of it because it's depicted tangibly on the card. So that helps to channel my intuition. I'm hoping someday that I can get to the point where I don't need the cards. I can effectively channel the message directly from source without use of any tool necessary. But we're manifesting that for the future, so we're working towards that. Okay, you guys, stay tuned. You never know what's going to happen around here, because I sure don't. Going with the flow of that. So this morning I woke up and I was feeling reflective, but feeling amazing, like just this amazing energy. I felt really good from having like a world experience. Last night I went out and I judged a karaoke contest. I loved it. I love singing and I love singing karaoke. So I just had a good time in general, and took that collective energy home with me. And it just felt fantastic to get out and interact and socially interact with friends that I hadn't seen in a while, and just kind of be a part of that. And so then I came home and woke up this morning, and it was kind of like just a feeling of sadness, like just a little bit of worry, a little bit of doubt, a little bit of sadness. So kind of, I would call those shadow emotions. And as I was working through those emotions, I realized that I was kind of picking up on my twin to almost a kind of a, you know, like I need to do something and write soon, because almost like an elementally acknowledgement. There was an acknowledgement. I would call it that. That's the energy that there was. There was an acknowledgement of the truth, okay, in the spiritual space. It wasn't necessarily vocalized. We didn't communicate that. My twin and I, we didn't communicate that, but it was definitely sensed. I sensed it, where there was this shift. It was like, okay, I acknowledge that you, as the counterpart, the B energy, the more spiritual energy, the what we call feminine energy. We can call it divine feminine if you want to, but in this instance, it is me, the divine feminine, and I'm embodying that energy this morning. It was acknowledged that as I have stepped out into my spiritual self and more into my truest self, that the light is on, it's shining, and it's become a beacon for people who want to be a part of it. And that also includes attraction, and an element of attraction. So what some of you may be experiencing is that you're attracting people who want to be with you. And that might have a romantic undertone to that. Okay, so that in turn has a duality in of itself. It's going to kind of expose the fact that you guys are not in physical union, and it's going to trigger maybe some insecurities in your counterpart, which should be vocalized and addressed or reassured or healed. I don't like to use the word reassurance necessarily, because we don't placate each other. We speak the truth to each other so that these things can be healed and affirmed, so that both of us can operate in freedom in the relationship without triggering further insecurities or doubts, right? So we've aligned ourselves in the spiritual realm, which creates I want to say loyalty, So I behave in a way now like that's different than the single life. So even when I go out, I feel like that relationship is needing to be treated as the divine relationship. So I'm very protective of the energies that I allow in and what the intent of those energies are, if that makes any sense. So I feel like some of what I'm picking up on intuitively, and I'm going to start shuffling the cards. I'm being led to shuffle the cards. That's why there's a hesitancy here. Sorry, I didn't pick up on that until now. Okay, so Temperance just flipped over. We'll go over where that placement is at, but Temperance is on the table. So the energy of Temperance is here. Yeah, I think there was an acknowledgement from the masculine energy that, okay, like, what is she doing? Where is she at? Who is she with? What's going on? Do I need to be worried? Do I have cause for doubt? That protective kind of nature, and in some instances, jealousy kind of comes up as the shadow self presents. Okay, and this is where we're starting to do like what I call the devil work, because the devil presented itself as a collective energy, you guys, as we ascend together collectively. And as we start moving towards union collectively, as these, waves come through and, union starts to take place, then, the devil presented itself in a lot of those readings as an energy. So the devil energy was on the table, all of Mercury retrograde in Pisces. That's not a coincidence that all of these different readers from, all around the world were collectively presented with the devil energy on the table and having to interpret what that was for the collective. Now, I do have some collected energy on the explanation for the devil energy. not just in the tarot reading, but in Ascension, and why it's important to look at the devil energy and understand it, because we're very misinformed about what the devil energy is, what it represents, what to do about it, and it invigorates a great deal of fear because we don't understand it collectively. We haven't been taught by religion historically what devil energy really is and what it represents in the ascension process. And I think that could potentially help a lot of people to forward their ascension, enlightenment, and union in twin flame paradigm, to understand the devil energy and why it's important to do your shadow work. Okay, so when we are moving towards union and interacting with our twin, the devil energy is going to be there. And part of that has to do with the duality again. Okay, so you have, yeah, things are shifting. So it's showing up in the cards, and we'll go through this in understanding what that is. These came out two together. Okay, so temperance is on the table. I feel like that goes with strength. Okay, so we'll go through these cards in a minute. I do a classic Celtic cross spread for those of you who are new to the channel and haven't seen me necessarily do my setup. I do a soft shuffle of the cards. I don't really toss the cards or bend or manipulate the energies in that way. I just kind of move them around the table until they all stick together in a big ball and really don't separate after that. And so I don't force them. And then I collect them all together, and whatever I do read reversals. I do believe that reversals are helpful to kind of get more well-defined information. Reversals don't always mean negative or bad. Reversals sometimes mean that there's still a little bit more work to do. Remember that Five of Pentacles upright is a tough energy. Okay, so uprights are not always good. So we don't look at things in tarot or in divination as in terms of good or bad. It's about the polarity of what we're working with and understanding those energies and the relationship with each other. Because there's infinite connectivity between all these relationships, they just transfer energy. They transfer source energy and they transfer release energy. Okay. So it's really just how these energies are allowed to move through us, and that is the manifestation of our intent. Okay, so when you are operating in spirit and energy is moving through you, you get to decide how much, where that energy goes, and where you place that with intent. So if you want to manifest your union, then operate in the flow of spirit. Move with that flow of spirit and allow it to move into the intent, into the intended outcome. Okay. So back to the reading. We were talking earlier, what were we talking about, spirit? Okay. So, because temperance came up on the table. So bring it back to twin flame duality. Okay. So I don't know, that moment might be gone. I'm being led to kind of refocus on the cards. So we're just going to go with that flow right now and show you guys what's going on the table. I feel like the curiosity has been building as far as like what the reading is concerned, like just get on with it a little bit. So we'll just go to the cards then. So Two of Swords in reverse. We've got the Justice card in the reverse. And we have the 10 of Swords in reverse. And the Ace of Pentacles is in the headspace collectively. Okay, so here's what I want us to understand. At the basis of the situation, in the body of the energy, we have the Two of Swords in reverse. Okay, so I feel like what this represents with the Justice in reverse is that we're no longer at a crossroads. Okay, so what we were kind of struggling with before, we've closed out that cycle. And the 10 of Swords in reverse in this position with the Ace of Pentacles representing our new headspace, our new thought space, is that we have collectively transformed our belief system. Some of the twins have come into understanding that they're a twin. Some of us are starting to awaken to this. So this card doesn't necessarily have to represent anxiety. It can also represent the intellectual process of working through belief systems, okay? Working through definitions of things, okay? So if you define the most important thing to have in a partner is that they're good looking, the swords can represent that. Okay, so if you have been working collectively to transfer that to the most important quality I want in a partner is spiritual enlightenment, then you've just transitioned from the Two of Swords to the Ten of Swords in reverse, because we're really switching thought patterns, okay? And it's taking place in the mind. But this is no longer the focus. It's just the basis of the situation. So we've reconciled through this because the energy of the 10 is on the table. So we've gone from the energy of the 2 to the energy of the 10, from Mercury retrograde in Pisces initiation through the shadow period, post period, okay? So we've worked through all the energies from the 2 to the 10, and now there's a completion of that cycle is what we're seeing here. Okay, and what has been the influencing energy through all of this is creating a balanced union. That's what you can see by the 2 pillars of light becoming one at the base of the entire card. Okay, so they're both illuminated, they're both coming together, and now I think the focus has been about how do we make this happen in the world? How do we bring ourselves into union in the 3D, on the earth? Okay, how do we actually make this happen in reality? Okay, so we've combined ourselves or aligned ourselves in the spiritual. We've aligned ourselves in communication. Now we've aligned ourselves in our value systems, and we both acknowledge that we're twins, that we want to be together. So there's been some clarity. Now, this does not necessarily mean it's been communicated, because the wands, okay, are part of the wands with the swords is about intellectualizing and communicating and verbalizing and vocalizing what that is. So your twin may not have vocalized this to you, but you felt the energy shift because the energy shifted from this thought process to, okay, let's do this. We're doing this. And now we're at the Ace of Pentacles. In the thought process, okay, not given and granted by the universe. But now the next process is to potentially create a plan towards actual union. How do we do this? When do we do this? Picking dates, making tangible plans. So that is now what's in the headspace of the collective twin paradigm. How do we make this happen for realsies? For realsies. So we have the influence of the divine on the table. The moon is in reverse. The high priestess is on the table with the 7 of Pentacles. Okay? The moon and the Ace of Cups are in reverse. We are no longer confused about the emotional nature of our connection. We understand that we love each other. So we don't have to talk about it. And we don't have to talk about this in an overly romantic sense anymore, okay? It's time, shit just got real. That's kind of what's coming through in a real tangible way. Is, okay, this is no longer in the fantasy realm. This is no longer in the ether. We're not talking about this in terms of fantasy and emotional expression. We're talking about how to make this real. We want to make this real. So temperance with strength is on the table. This represents the healing of the feminine energy. And that doesn't just include the divine feminine or the embodiment of the anatomical feminine. The masculine has had to heal the feminine energies that have been causality for him to potentially live in or create toxic masculinity. Also comes down to, how do I define my masculine self? How do I define success in the world? How do I define myself as a partner? How do I define myself as a husband? What do I bring to the table of value? Okay, so this 10 of Swords energy from the 2 of Swords energy has been about him also going through the process of healing his feminine side. He cannot relate to the divine feminine energy without healing his own. Okay, so he's had to come through and face his shadow side, which is I've not spent a lot of time in my life focused on my spiritual side, focused on developing a spiritual aspect of my character. And look at my divine partner is spiritually developed. And I don't know how to relate to that. I don't know how to use my intuition. Okay, these are potential things that you could be saying if you are in the energy if you're healing your feminine side. Okay, so what I see here is that the Seven of Pentacles in reverse collectively has come up many times in other reads. And what it has been representing, that is that the seeds that you have sown, you will reap. Okay, and these are the spiritual seeds that you have sown, you will reap. And that spiritual timing is still in maturation. It hasn't reached maturation. It's not harvest time. Okay, we're at the energy of the ace, which is the divine inspiration for the actual physical union. Okay, how quickly we move through from the ace to the seven, I don't know. That's in the hands of the divine. Okay, and it's going to be specific to each individual twin couple. Okay, and when we talk about divine timing, we're not talking about, oh, the divine has opened a portal from March 2nd to June 22nd. So if you don't do your work in that amount of time, then you won't manifest union. No, divine timing is about your personal timing in all of this and how much you participate in this. It's eternal, you guys. Stop looking at the calendar. It's eternal. The point of looking at the calendar is to understand how these planetary influences can help perpetuate that and propel it, and how you can become aware of your environment to use it for your benefit. Okay, we've been doing this for centuries on the earth. Okay, instead of swimming across the ocean individually, we created a boat. And we use the water to our advantage to get across from continent to continent. Spiritually, it is very practical, just like that. Okay, you can create spiritual boats, okay, so that you can cross the water and get across to where you need to go. And however long it takes you, particularly to build your boat, is your divine timing. This is the next lesson. This is the next level. However long it takes you to beat the level or get through the level depends on your mastery and what other things and influences you have. That's all that it is. Okay, so there's not like, this is your path. There's not one path for everybody. It's one path for you, and it's your path. So this is your divine timing, okay? And you can participate in accelerating that divine timing by allowing the energies to move and manifest through you, okay? By accepting your truths. That just came to me. Accepting your truth is what sets you free. The truth sets you free, okay? So when you accept your truest self, when you accept the truth and you trust and you step out on that, that's when you're free. That's when you can, you have the power of manifestation and you can really move forward in that. Okay. And it is important to move forward with patience and strength. And these are the internal energies of the feminine. And I do feel like these are on the table because that is what the masculine had to do. He had to get in touch with his feminine side, essentially. Okay. And if you are the female embodiment of the twin in the paradigm, you may have had to heal your femininity because of toxic feminism. That does exist, you guys. Making the femininity of a woman so well defined that if she steps outside of that, she's not allowed to express herself in feminine ways that are healthy. Yeah, toxic femininity also exists. So let's not just blame the guys for contributing to something that we've contributed to as a society, as a whole, as a collective. It requires healing. It needs healing. And we should participate in the healing of that energy, not pointing fingers about who broke it or wounded it to begin with. Okay, while it bleeds out onto the, whatever. As it bleeds out, we're arguing about who's going to save its life. And it's like, hello, just jump in, save its life. Just save its life. Okay, do the spiritual work, you guys. Just throw yourself into it and stop with all of this petty bullshit is really what I want to say. Queen of Cups is in the upright in the past situation. And I feel like all of these energies that are reflected on the left side of the table beyond the parameter of the read is the Queen of Cups energy that is now in the past position because all of this has been addressed. It's been reconciled. So moving forward to the other side, so we've got our past, our current, and our future situation with the Celtic cross spread. The future holds for us, can we maintain our steadiness in this? Okay, so we've done the emotional healing, or we've addressed each one of these cups individually. We've looked into them. We've decided what we've wanted. Now, can we maintain this? That's our concern collectively, is how do we maintain our balance as we start to activate in motion? Okay, so one of the reads that I had for one of the signs for love relationships, that was exactly what came out. It was the scales and balance, and then it was the duality of the yin and yang. Okay, and both of those are about balance, but one is static and one is in movement. So maintaining your balance once you've created it and nobody moves and nothing's added to it or taken from it, that's easy. That's easy peasy pumpkin, guys. Who can't remain in balance when things are still? But you guys are being called and activated out of your stillness, out of the hermit mode. The hermit is not on the table anymore. So the hermit energy is not represented here at all, not even in the reverse. Okay, so the Ace of Pentacles does represent activation. So when we start taking our mental space and we start activating energy there, we start creating. We are already in the process of manifesting. In the 3D, we're trying to manifest union, okay? And we're concerned that collectively, can we maintain our composure? Can we maintain our togetherness? Can we maintain our focus? All of these triggers, can we work through them and still maintain the goal? Okay. Can we be triggered and still maintain the goal? Can we be triggered and come back to goal? Can we be triggered and come back to center? Okay. So that's what I feel is the biggest concern for the collective, is maintaining our balance as we create actual union. Okay, so how we're viewing our other counterpart, okay? The Page of Swords in reverse. So communication is still a topic, but we've graduated. We've collectively moved beyond the 10, and now we're into the court cards. So this is maturation. It's early maturation, but it is progress. Okay, so that's why you guys feel the release of the energy, is there was progress that was made this morning through all of this. There were some decisions that were made, which is why we've moved from the energy of the swords to the energy of the pentacles. Okay, this is progress. It's not fast, rapid progress, and we don't want it to be, okay, because the Knight of Cups is here. It's in reverse. We are now having to serve ourselves by redefining and reconciling the emotional stuff that is going to come up as a result of reconciling and redefining our value system. So we're going to be triggered. We already know that. This morning, some of us in interaction and communication with our twin have already been triggered. Okay, so it's like, can we take the lessons that we've learned and apply them to our situation so that we don't have an emotional fallout? Okay, sending us back into separation. So I would like to redefine this in this video as I'm no longer going to say twin flame separation, because you're not in separation. If you believe that you're in separation, then you're trying to play out your twin flame paradigm in an egocentric self-identity way that doesn't include the spiritual lessons and ascension, okay? When you're moving through your twin flame paradigm in some degree of awareness, and there is some enlightenment, you've been granted wisdom, okay, from the divine, and you do understand what's going on, you realize you need that space from each other to go to center and inside of yourself to determine what your true self says about the trigger. Because the reason why you're being triggered is because there's a conflict that's created by coming into contact or context with new information or old information. Okay. So now that you're aware of your truest inner self and you understand that there's a divine nature to that, when you hear something that your partner is mirroring back to you and you're triggered, you have an emotional response, it resonates with you, and there's conflict. The conflict is not within the partnership. The conflict is within you. There's some element of that statement that has surface, superficial truth in the identity, but it has a deeper, more authentic truth in your divine self. And you're being called in that moment as a twin to reconcile that. So if you create the space and say, hold on, honey, that triggered some feeling in me. I need to work through this for a second. I'm being conflicted. Okay. My true self must not believe what I just heard in my identity self. So reconcile that and get down to what do I really believe? What's my truest nature? What do I really believe? Okay. And when you come back to center and then you re-engage with your partner with that reconciliation, the pain body is no longer active. So there's no need for the ego to become defensive. And then you don't withdraw. Okay. And that isn't separation. Create space because of the divine spiritual understanding of what the nature of your relationship is. Don't perpetuate separation. Okay. So I hope that resonates for some of you guys for enlightenment and spiritually with the divine relationship here and the paradigm that's playing out. So in the answer position, we have the Ace of Wands in reverse and the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, so like I said, a lot of these cards are in reverse. That's not negative energy. That's not how the polarities play out. Okay, so what this means is we're placing the energy in developing a plan. So we've aligned ourselves with each other with our twin in the spiritual. Now we're trying to align ourselves together in the physical plane. Okay, so there's no action because we haven't learned how to do that yet. Okay, so it's not wise, or it would be unwise to take action because we don't know what that action is. It hasn't been revealed to us yet. So the message in the cards is take the time, create the space, learn some more about this process so that as you move forward, even as excited as you guys may be that you're in alignment with each other and you feel on the same page, for once, finally, you feel like you're on the same damn page. Don't get so caught up in the emotional excitement of that you lose sight of the foundation that's being built, okay? And allow the divine timing to restitute you to the Seven of Pentacles before you can get to the Eight. Okay? You have to let the divine create the pentacle that from the seed that you planted before you replicate it. Okay? So before you start mass production on this, okay, you have to allow the divine timing and the spiritual lessons to really, okay, work through all of those triggers. That's what I'm being led to tell you. Okay, so you guys are going to work through triggers. You guys are going to be triggered with this interaction. Some of you guys are starting to communicate with each other more. Okay, so you're going to be triggering each other. And it's very important to maintain union and alignment and attunement with each other. That was another thing that came to me in the Akashic download for the pre-meditation was that when you guys meet, remember that you're twins. One of you is going to represent the frequency of spirit and the other is going to represent the frequency of the world. So you have two very different polarities of the duality playing out at the same time in each other. But you're magnetically drawn to each other, even though you're very different and have very different perspectives. Okay, so what your twin brings to the table is very different from you. And I think part of the nature of being separated is so that when you are reunited, this, individual work that you couldn't have completed on your own in the same amount of time, it's almost like the power of two to become one. is the power couple. It's the quintessential power couple. Okay, so what one partner has mastered about the world and the 3D and mastering, the senses and the mastering maybe the financial aspect or manifesting money in the 3D world. The other partner has been working on spiritual manifestation and manifesting in the dimensionals and, working on different aspects that the other person hasn't. So what I'm reflecting back to my twin is, I've focused so much on the world that I haven't even, delved into a spiritual nature, or I don't even know if I have one, or maybe I do and I want one, but I don't know how to get it. Okay. So I would represent that in our relationship, but he has mastered very much the 3D realm. He knows how to use his hands and tinker and knows how to put things very simply, uses words and communication very effectively. And, so I've come to admire that in him rather than find it offensive that I lack in it and resent him for having it. It's like, oh, no, we're a team. We work together. So we don't compete with one another. I don't bring something to the table that should trigger in you resentment because you don't have it. It's not like I expect you to have it. There's not a pious arrogance here. It's, we bring different things to the table. Let's strengthen our experience by aligning those differences together and working together. So instead of a me against him, it's an us against the world, baby. And when you start to align yourself like that, the whole world looks different. He brings to the table what he brings to the table, and I don't expect him to bring anything more. If he wants to learn anything more, I encourage that. I bring to the table what I bring to the table. Does he want me to learn more? Yeah, he encourages it. But, we're not going to be mean to each other anymore for what we do or don't know. It just, we're done with those kinds of triggers. We've reconciled those. So whatever other triggers we have, we're going to talk about and work through, or at least I've decided from my end of things, I'm just going to vocalize them. I'm going to work through the emotional intensity of it first and ask myself why it was a trigger, get down to the truest sense of it, and then state my truth. And just state my truth. And then whatever my truth is, he can respond to it from whatever his point of view is. So that is the totality of the reading as far as what we have from this with some examples. And I do feel like there's clarification and some advice cards. So let me tap back into direct spirit for where we're headed next with the cards. Okay, so I'm clarifying future because I feel like for a lot of you, what resonated from the reading was already the past and the current situation. You guys can definitely tell where you guys are at. You're connected. So we're going to work towards clarifying the cards for the future positions, okay? So I do feel like there's going to be some triggers. So what is going to be triggered? Where are we going? Okay, so triggers. Moonology deck is active, you guys. Okay, so powerful change is on the horizon, and then expect powerful change. Powerful change is on the horizon with the new moon. Okay, and then the other card that came out at the same time was bring love into the situation, and this is really where we're going to have to learn how to love self and heal self and love each other and heal each other. That's what we're bringing into this with this energy here. So as we're triggered with each other and then called into conflict with ourself, honoring the truest form of yourself, which is the epitome of self-love, is bringing love into the situation. So honoring your truest self is what is going to bring love here. And it's going to shut that trigger down, or reconcile the trigger is really the better way to put it. Okay. And as a result, we're going to change. Okay. So there's powerful transformation that's on the horizon for us. And we might not, okay. So the eclipse in this card is representing how we might not be able to see what that change is. That can invigorate fear. Okay, so that's what I'm getting. So clarify the Page of Swords in reverse. Yes. Which deck? Yes, so Moonology is going to clarify the leveling up of our belief system, value system, and alignment with each other on the intellectual plane or dimension, but also the lack of communication. Okay, clarify the lack of communication. So the 2 cards coming out are Nothing is Yet Set in Stone and Have Faith in Your Dreams. Okay, so I feel like this comes down to the energy of the Fool card, which is to take a leap of faith, which we did. We took the leap of faith, and now it's kind of time to kind of slow that energy down, that action energy down, and really fortify into creating this plan with the Ace of Pentacles inspiration. Okay, so the Ace of Pentacles is have faith in your dreams. Okay, so don't look at this lack of communication and this lack of vocalization of the energy shift. So you might not even get validation from your partner that it happened. You guys, you don't need vocal validation from anybody on this planet that you're a spiritual divine being when you come into the knowledge of your spiritual divinity. Nobody needs to validate that for you. And you don't need vocal validation from your partner that things are transitioning and shifting in your relationship. If you can sense the energy paradigm, your partner might not be able to do that. That's your gift. It's your ascension. It's what you bring to the table. Okay. But there are going to be things that they will feel shift that you won't. That's what they bring to the table. This is why alignment, attunement, and trust, which is what we're really essentially talking about when we talk about faith. Okay. When we talk about faith, you still have to move forward with persistence and intent to manifest this outcome. So that's why I think that the card here is Nothing is Yet Set in Stone. This is a delicate time for twins and union because we're only at the inspiration phase with the Ace. Okay. We have not solidified the plan and we haven't taken action on it yet. We're still reconciling our emotional selves through these trigger points. And the divine has not released any of us for full union yet, but the seeds are planted and look at. The tree is near maturation. Okay, so there's work still to be done. So do the work. Just take a deep breath, do the work, continue your meditations and things like that. Okay. So now we're going to move on to clarification for the Knight of Cups in reverse. Okay, so the Knight of Cups in reverse is going to give us some specific emotions that we're going to experience throughout this next phase in the twin flame paradigm. Areas of release, doubt. So when we talk about some of the triggers, doubt is going to be one of them. And remember that just because nothing is set in stone doesn't mean that we lose faith in our dreams. Okay? So doubt is going to be a trigger. So we'll read the mantras on these cards when we go through the full totality of what's going to be triggered. Self-esteem. Okay? And that's why this card is here. Bring love into the situation, and that includes love to self, self-love. Okay? There's a lot of vulnerability that's associated with taking that mask off and feeling naked and exposed with your partner. So how do you maintain your self-esteem when you're exposing your newest, rawest self to someone else? I don't know. I'm working through that myself too, you guys. So let's see what else will be triggered this month. We've got adversity and purpose. So through these challenges and through the adversity of reconciling these triggers, we're gonna come to center and balance ourselves out in our true purpose. So the purpose of your twin relationship, the purpose of your twin, and the purpose of you being in a twin paradigm is going to be revealed to you in this next phase. So you guys are coming together with a sense of purpose, and you guys are going to work together through these challenges. And I do feel like what you guys are doing, what we're doing, is we're building trust. We're building the trust. Okay, I trust him, he trusts me. That's what we're doing. We're building the trust. This is the next part of the foundation. And it's going to be challenging because there's going to be triggers that are going to come through for that. We're going to be triggered, and we have to be, okay? If we were never triggered, we could never reconcile that and never learn that our partner is capable and can affirm us and can stand in their independence or stand in their healthy expression of self in the relationship. So it's kind of like test, if you want to call it trigger a test. You're kind of being tested. Okay, so what of that is firm? Okay, so we don't have to be afraid that this is happening. Fear isn't on the table. Remember, fear isn't a trigger. To some extent, the fact that we're here with the Ace of Pentacles and we've worked through all of these swords means that we've kind of mastered the fear of each other. We've mastered the fear of union. We're no longer necessarily afraid. That does not mean that fear will not reappear in later energies. It just means for right now, we've worked through the energy of the Ten of Swords and have reconciled and reevaluated what's important to us. Okay? Because some of our twins don't look or sound like and aren't like what we envisioned our partners to be. Mine, I'm completely physically attracted to him, and I'm very grateful for that. You know, I think he's sexy and hot as hell, and you know, it just kind of invigorates a lot of passion, I guess you could say, and intensity in that realm or in that way. So I'm grateful that he is. It helps a lot. It just helps a lot to know that I'm attracted to him physically. So, where are we going? Okay. Yeah. So those are the triggers for the Knight of Cups. So these are the emotional energies of the month that you guys are going to be working through. And the Knight of Cups is in reverse, which I think is kind of telling us that what we deeply desire is to not overreact when we're triggered. Okay. Because the Knight of Cups, when the influence of the Knight of Cups is the Ace of Wands in reverse, it can be about overreacting, an over emotional response to a trigger. Okay, so I think that as we work through our doubts, as we work through our challenges and find our sense of purpose together, and as we work through a tangible plan, building trust with each other, we're going to develop the relationship self-esteem. Okay, so the relationship is going to start taking on its own identity here. Okay, and remember, when you're twins and you're coming together, there is a single identity because you're two parts of a whole already. So it's about finding the identity of the relationship and then becoming confident in that identity that's created with this union. Okay, so the message on these cards, thank you, Spirit. We had doubt come up. I released the need to know all the answers. Okay, so this is about have faith in your dreams. Okay, you release the need to know all of the answers because I have faith in this union and in the plan towards union. Adversity, I accept that challenges are the best way to learn. So part of what we're learning right now is through the adversity and the triggers. So when we're emotionally triggered, you know, the best thing that we can do to encourage trust with each other is to not overreact, to stay in balance, to deal with the part of it that's you're meant to deal with on your own, which is finding your own truth. So you have to create that space. Okay, so when you experience your counterpart, create that space. Don't overreact. They're creating that space so they can go within themselves and kind of go, okay, let me disconnect so that I can find out what I believe and come to my truest sense of self. Then I can reconnect and share with you what that is without bringing damaging energy and conflict into the paradigm of the twin flame union. Okay, it's a very responsible thing to do when you're loving each other. I love you and will allow you to disconnect. I allow myself and you to allow this space to be while you disconnect so that you can learn what your true self is. Because when you come back into connection, it's going to be with your truest self and you're going to be able to state your truth clearly. Now, men, or I want to say the more masculine energy, doesn't necessarily vocalize that, they just demonstrate it. Okay, so that's why for the feminine energy in the relationship, you're not going to necessarily get a lot of communication that this is going on. That isn't a cause for losing faith. Okay, he might not know what the words are, but he's going to demonstrate it. So don't look to his words, look to his actions and what's demonstrated. Okay, test it, put it out there. Okay, so purpose is I know what I am here to do. And when you say I am, or it's the great I am, the divine I am that's in you, the greater sense of purpose. And self-esteem is I possess gifts of the soul that benefit me and others. Knowing who you are in this relationship, in this union, and knowing what you both bring to the table. So your individual identities are not being compromised by the union. Okay, that's an important declaration to make. And then Ace of Wands in reverse. I feel, okay, so Ace of Wands in reverse. We're going to the Ganesha deck, which is the Wild Offering deck, to clarify the Ace of Wands in reverse. Calmness. Okay, so it's not about action or overactivity. It's not about taking any kind of action. It's about calmness. Okay, the inner divine is the witness of all, remaining still and quiet even during intense turbulence. And sometimes triggers and adversity can really be construed as intense turbulence. When you're talking about vibing on the same frequency and you're talking about attuning with each other to that same frequency, there's going to be turbulence when the energies collide. So there may, and that may manifest itself as conflict and the communication. Okay, so recognize that instead of being triggered by the conflict and communication, recognize it for what it is and go, oh, okay, well, let's create space so that we can kind of reattune ourselves and come together again, and then create space and attune yourself and realign with your truth, because who you are at the core and who your counterpart is at the core is the same. So the closer and more quickly you get to your truest self, the quicker and more accurately and effectively you'll be vibing on the same frequency, because that frequency is your true frequency. So that's union. That's alignment. So take a deep breath and then say, quiet my mind, dear Lord. May your peaceful calm take over. Okay, so that's why this is the basis of the situation in the past energies. This is reconciled. We don't need to go back here and relive this. If you're an emotional cutter, okay, put the razor down. It's time to stop reopening old wounds that has been reconciled and healed. Okay, so let it go and move forward into this forward energy, you guys. Keep your faith in the situation. I feel like that's the message from the divine about the twin flame paradigm right now, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys being here. For all the new subscribers, welcome to the channel. Oh yeah, when I logged in and I saw that, I was so excited, you guys. Welcome to the channel. I'm so happy that you guys are here. Yeah, Project Fev is growing and I'm excited about what's coming as far as that's going. Yeah, stay tuned, you guys, stay tuned. So yeah, so click like, that helps the video circulate. Click subscribe, that helps the channel circulate. And of course, it builds the community with each other. If you want to get alerts to when my newest content is added to the channel, click this little notification bell right here and you'll get those on your phone or wherever else you get them. Also, housekeeping is if you want a personal read or a more specific read of any kind about what situation you're going through, there's going to be some personal read information in the description box below. Other than that, you guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy your week. And I look forward to seeing you guys when I upload new content. Bye. Namaste.